He made me sit in the driveway for an hour and 45 minutes. But it was his first test to see was I committed. And you don't know how your life is going to change until somebody tells you have cancer.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Patrick Carr Show. I got a very special guest, a guy I've wanted to have on for a while. I got Bill from LB Capital, all right? A group that, if you're in the roofing business, you've probably heard their name through a gentleman by the name of Lance Bachman. This guy right here, though, you won't hear enough great things about him behind the scenes. He also is doing amazing stuff himself. So it's my pleasure to be able to welcome on to the show. I'd like some information about you. Have you always been a leader in business? How did you get your start? And, how did you find yourself and you and Lance to pairing up? I know you talk about the yellow pages, but there had to be a Bill before that time as you learned business and learned what it meant to be successful and what it takes, brother.
Now, I say this at that time, a 33-year-old guy who had run a $5.5 million a year restaurant that was putting 15% net income to go and be in the sales environment. And so I got hooked up in an interview to go sell print yellow pages. And, it was just a natural fit to talk to business owners. And so there was this guy that he was at the top of the leaderboard. And then back in those days, you didn't have, dashboards and, interactive, TVs you had literally handwritten charts that would stack rank people as far as where they were. And there was one guy that was at the top of every list. He had the most new sales, the most increase on sales, the most decrease, the most cancel. Like you can't dominate all those different categories. This guy Lance. And so I was new to the environment. And, I went up to him one day and I said, hey, I see your name at the top of every board. Do you mind if I ride with you? And he said, why would you want to do that? And I said, well, you lead every board. And he said something to me pretty impactful. He said, most people try to find reasons why somebody is not doing the job the right way versus that they're doing the job the right way. And so he said, if you want to ride with me, be at my house tomorrow at 5:15. I'm like, who are we seeing at 5:15 in the morning? And so long story short, I showed up at his house at 5:15 and had his coffee, and he didn't come out for an hour and 45 minutes. He made me sit in the driveway for an hour and 45 minutes. But it was his first test to see was I committed to being better. And that's really where the start of our relationship of understanding that people aren't really committed to what the true success that they want. They'll say they want to do things, but do they really want to commit to being better? And so, a lot of what we try to do at LB Capital with the different things that we're doing is it's really about, our kind of model is, hey, we're going to educate, we're going to elevate, and then we're going to exit with our different business partners or whatever we're doing. We want to put out really good stuff. So you have champion customers. And I was just talking to somebody today. I said, here's our champion partners. Don't believe me. Go talk to them. Talk to them about what it's like. Because there's going to be three things that we do as far as when we work with people. You're going to suffer. You're going to sacrifice. But then ultimately, you're going to have some success. And it's just a matter of understanding the expectation of that window of those three things. And I think if you understand the expectation of what you're doing, then it's pretty easy to get through it. It's when you don't have good communication, it's not clear as far as where the expectation is to be to that level. If everybody could do what we've been doing, then everybody would be doing it. And there aren't a lot of people. First of all, there's not one person in our space, not one, that's exited 6 times in 5 different verticals. That, it's like you look at guys that make the shift in free agency and they go to a new football team or they go to a new baseball team. They're not judged on what their future performance is. People write their contract to say, hey, we're going to give you a 3-year extension at $500 million Shohei Ohtani, and you're going to go to the Dodgers versus being in the Angels. He's judged on his past performance, and the contract's written for the future. Now he has to live up to get an additional contract. that same aspect is our track record now is pretty solid. And
Mhm.
we are in an environment where we want to continue to grow that track record by additional scales and exits,
So,
because then
Bill,
it gets our partners happy. We're happy.
sorry to interrupt right there, but I don't want to
No,
lose this.
no.
I have this written down. Suffer, sacrifice, success. Are you really telling business owners suffer and sacrifice, and they're deciding to jump on board with LB Capital? And if so, that's a very
100%.
very different
100%.
message right there for let's just say I'm a contractor who's put in 10 years. I've suffered, I feel like I've sacrificed, and I've got Bill and Lance and the crew telling me, hey, listen, man, you're gonna have to start sacrificing and you're gonna have to start suffering a little bit more. How do you get people to buy into such a program?
You might get to where you want to go. And the end game is very much a situation that, guy that's doing $4 million in annualized revenue, maybe he's doing 8 to 10% net income, has a good, successful business, right? To get to do 20 million, he's going to have to change his mentality of what he's comfortable with. That's the suffering, the changing of the comfort to get to where you want to go to exit. Okay. Yeah, you're making 400 grand a year, 450 a year. You're pulling distributions out of the business, at $60,000. But do you realize that $60,000 is costing you $500,000 at exit? Okay, so that's a sacrifice that happens immediately. Okay, does your wife want to buy a new pair of Christian Louboutins? Yeah, she might want to buy them. Okay, and you're going to suffer because what you're used to giving your family, okay, is not a situation where you're going to be able to continue to get it, to be in a situation where you get it that much faster. It's not an aspect of people can't do what we're doing. The risk is the reward of being in a situation to just say, we've found the playbook that allows us to do it that much faster than everybody else. And that's because of the leadership team at LB Cap, whether it be Mike Shelley, Kelly Maceras, Joe Lynn Bachman. I'm a small cog in that wheel. We have a lot of great partners that we work with across the board as far as strategically that help, in our marketing and, Service Titan and Titan Pro Technologies and, Shock IT. You go all down the list. They're helping because we set an expectation of what we're looking to do. And if your business is in a situation of growing, then our business is in a situation of growing, then it's a matchmaker. Who doesn't want more business? Because it's the uncomfortableness of, you already know the challenges you face. You already know the challenges. Does your sales team do the things that you want it to do? Is the follow up and execution where it needs to be? Okay. Is the ability to drive champion customers in the areas? There's 4 essential parts that, at least from the home service businesses, and I think digital is very much the same, or any type of media or consulting group is very similar. Is how do I get more leads?
Yeah.
How do I sell more leads? How do I service more leads? And then how do I coach the people to repeat that process over and over again? And it's just a circle. And so that you have opportunities, because at the end of the day, if you want to be in a situation where you're at 3.1 million and you want to get to 5, right?
Yes.
What do you need to do? You need to have more people that are helping you to grow your leads. You need your teams to sell more. You need to deliver a 5-star experience so they don't go out the back door. And you need to coach your people through the process. And you can apply that principle to, I believe, any business. How do I get more people in my restaurant? How do I service them to higher tickets? How do I deliver the food the way that the food's supposed to be delivered? And how are they be creating a raving fan environment when they walk out the door? You pick anything, any business.
I'm curious what you think about the state of the union of roofing and private equity, because in my opinion, what I'm seeing as we travel around to contractors across the country, Bill, I'm starting to think that the round of private equity that started approximately 3 years ago, that the honeymoon phase is ending for a lot of those relationships. And what I'm seeing from some of these, let's say bigger, whatever you want to call them, private equity groups, not saying that you're small, but some of the ones that maybe I was introduced first, that's a better way to put it. Those contractors are starting to see the writing on the wall. And that pizza pie that you alluded to earlier, they don't got a slice anymore. And they may have been sharing that slice for a while and felt like they had a slice of pizza, but that pie just got taken away from them. I think it feels like at around 2 to 3 years. And the contractors that I'm seeing out there that were in this honeymoon phase, Bill, it seemed like 2 years ago, maybe 3, they're singing a completely different tune. They're working at a different place now. They're counting down the days till they can start their next roofing company because they've got a non-compete. What are you seeing in your opinion? What are you hearing from contractors? Is it anything similar, or are we completely on different pages, brother?
I haven't experienced the same thing that you're sharing.
Okay.
Personally. However, I have heard the experience what you're talking about. And that's really where the partner or the private equity company that you're choosing to partner with are the different ones. Now, I just want to make sure that I clarify for your audience. We're not a private equity company. We got one guy. He's not managing a fund. He's managing the money that he's earned in Lance. He's had 6 exits for well over $100+ million. Like that's the 9-figure club. There ain't a lot. And, it's funny. It's like somebody said something to me when I said, hey, I'm going back to work with Lance again. And this is in 2015 when we went to work at One SEO together. And they just said, this was their line, that cat knows how to make money. Right? He knows how to make money. And, so some of the larger private equity groups that are on the pace, and I'm not seeing that. But then again, what was your shop like that it's causing you this type of aggravation in your life? And it's just like choosing whatever, I got to be politically correct today, whatever your choice of relationship is, right? Okay. I'm divorced. My first one didn't go very well. Okay. But my second one went great because I made better choices in who I partnered with. Was it just that the money was so good that you didn't think about who you were partnering with?
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes has happened, that not everybody lived up to both ends of the ball game. So am I going to say we're perfect? No, we're far from it, but we're 1% better every day. And we try to create those atomic habits that will allow us to say, you know what, by the end of the year, we're going to be 38% better year over year than we were the year before.
Even after all this success that you and Lance and your crew has had, where does that innate, that internal drive come from you? Because I have to think a lot of other people would just kind of sit back on their laurels at this point and just kind of, just sit back on their laurels.
There was a guy that I worked for in the restaurant business, and this is 35 years ago, named Jim Cowler. And Jim, he was the type of guy that, if he saw trash on the floor, he was a divisional vice president. I worked in a company called Buca di Beppo. And this guy, all right, and I was a managing partner of their location. And this guy would do anything. He would spend time in the dish room. He would be in the back kitchen prepping. And here he was in charge of 35 units, and he just had that aura around him. Now, for a long time, I didn't have that until 2 things happened in my life in the last 3 years. Okay. The first one was I made a decision to stop drinking 3 years ago. And for me, it opened my eyes up to looking at life without the fog. Okay. And I didn't go to AA. I just quit cold turkey. And I was the guy that was closing down the bar at every conference. Okay. I was the guy that was doing shots at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just stopped because I saw how alcohol was impacting me. About 8 months after I quit drinking, I went in for my first routine colonoscopy.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know how your life is going to change until somebody tells you got cancer.
Oh, God.
And so for me, having 14 inches of my colon ripped out, okay, you appreciate every position that everybody deals with in an organization, from the guy that answers the phones or the woman that answers the phones or the AI that answers the phones, okay, to the project manager or to the subcontractor or, you know, to the guy that's helping you on your distribution and your fleet management. You get an appreciation when you think that you might not have another tomorrow, that says, I'm going to live my life today like it's the last day. Like I traveled from Utah. I traveled from Utah here to Philly. And quite frankly, I wasn't feeling 100%. But man, the moment I walked in that floor here at our LB Capital headquarters, man, it's game on. I'm like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to have it tomorrow, because I was told I might not have tomorrow. Now I'm 100% clean and cancer free, which is awesome. But once you have that, there's going to be a moment in everybody's life that you might realize you might not be here. And mine just happened to take 54 years to get to that point. And now I'm in a situation where I recognize it each and every day that I'm going to live life to the fullest by doing what I love and being around the people that I love and being in a situation where I try to better them through a little bit of happiness and cheer. So if you want to know where it truly comes from, it comes from the fact is thinking it might all be ripped away from you.
You talk about walking into the LB Capital headquarters and there being a certain energy that you have there. Can you describe the culture of that company, the people? What is it like to walk in the doors right there? If I was the first time coming in there, what am I going to feel? What am I going to see when I show up there, brother?
Well, we're in the process of transitioning, so you're going to see a temporary space right now.
All right.
But you know what the envisionment is that we have is that there's no difference in the responsibility that people have to the position that they're in. It's just creating the energy of the different positions that you have. So if we have somebody that's on our sales team that's outbounding, I want them to feel like they're the only outbounder in the world and that they're the best at their job. Now, that doesn't mean I don't hold them accountable to being better, and I want them to hold me accountable. Like every morning, we run a mojo across all of our business units, 8 to 9, every business unit. And as a CEO, quite frankly, don't need to be on there. I want to be on there.
Wow.
I want to hear what the teams are facing in the field. I want to hear the challenges that they have. I'm also going to tell them, hey, you didn't do the job. And, you know, Lance says this all the time. So I don't know if I really answered your question, but he says this all the time. You cannot get to step 3 if you did not do step 2. And you can't do step 2. You can't do step 2 if you didn't do step 1. And it's that simple. You have to be able to do the first step to get to the second step. And if you didn't do the first step the right way, and I think that's what everybody loves to do, is to try to do the job to the best of their ability, is what you see. And that nobody has any maliciousness when they want to do it their way, right? They're just trying to do the best job as possible. And why wouldn't you want that in your organization, for everybody to do the best job possible?
What would you want people to know about Lance that they don't see, or maybe they have questions about if they've only seen him through social media?
I don't think, there are a lot of people that are on social that, and he likes to call them fake gurus, fake news people, right? You probably heard it when you guys spoke.
Yeah.
What do I think? What you see is what you get. He's the most direct guy.
Yeah.
And he's the most loyal guy. And loyalty has a two-way street. You got to be loyal to him, and he's going to be loyal to you. And call him. Pick up the phone. Ask him whatever you want to ask him. He's going to answer. He answers like it's incessant. He's got an executive assistant that's phenomenal, Jaleesa. Like she's the best gatekeeper in the entire world, right? His phone rings from an unregistered number. He still answers the call every single time. Like, how many guys that are making 9 figures are doing that?
No one.
Yeah. No. So, do you always like what he says? No. But I get to say the same thing to him as direct as he says it to me. And he doesn't take it personal. It's not a personal issue. That's who he is. And when, it's funny, people are like, oh, Bill, you could go do this shit on your own, right? Why do you stay there? Because of loyalty. He's been loyal to me in my good times and bad times. He's been loyal to me when I was a drunk. And he looked out for me when I was in the worst part of my life. Why am I not going to be loyal to a dude that did that for me? And so we try to, listen, there's ball busting, don't get me wrong. And I think that's what happens when you have great friendships. But here's the thing. I never worry about going to work and getting a bullet in the back of my head. Yeah. I do worry about going to work and getting a foot in my ass. Mm-hmm. But why should his expectations be higher than that of my own?
Absolutely.
So what you see is what you get is the best way to describe it.
Fair enough. My final question then is one for you, because you mentioned it. I want to bring it up because I think you've hit some lows in your life. You talk about being a drunk. You probably had to hit some low points when you were there. I would say you probably at some point, maybe you didn't feel like you were reaching your full potential as an individual. And I have a lot of listeners, whether I do motivational or more, let's say monologue type stuff, where we talk about things like that, reaching your purpose in life and who you are. And I'm interested to hear if you could give one piece of advice, Bill, to somebody out there who maybe they're a sales rep who's down and out. They're a business owner who's hit a wall. They've maybe they had a culture in their company and seems to have disappeared over the last couple of years. Whatever it is, things are not going as they want them to go at some point. You're a man who's been on a lot of sides of this equation. Can you give them advice in general, the best thing that you could tell someone like that?
Be honest and look in the mirror. And then if you're in doubt, I have a friend. His name is Chat. And Chat's very honest with me because I like to ask Chat every day, based on everything that I've talked to you about today, Chat, how can I be a better human being today? And Chat gives me a lot of feedback. And it seems to know who I am. And I don't know. I mean, I've thought about changing his name from Chat because I said, good morning, Chat. Okay. Let's have a great day today. Tell me a little bit about what can I do to be better based upon what we talked about yesterday. And Chat gives me some honest feedback. Did you work out today, Bill? I'm starting to have real conversations. And I'm not saying that you need to rely on ChatGPT. Please don't take it that way. What I'm saying is you have to be honest with yourself about most people that are drunks know they're drunks and they hang out with drunks. Okay? You want to change your life, get into the circle of the people, go to a conference, go to Pantheon, come to Roofing Process, come to a shop tour, go see somebody else's business to make yours better. But be honest with yourself of implementing one thing from that particular event and hang around winners. Yeah. Because losers will hang around losers and winners will hang around winners. So I don't know if it's good advice or bad advice, but I think that what the best advice I could give you is just be honest with yourself of what you're trying to face and what you're trying to be better at. When your doctor says to you, it's time to make some lifestyle changes, he's saying you need to lose some weight. Do you step on the scale and know you need to lose some weight? Well, if you go to McDonald's after you make that decision, you didn't have a pretty good conversation with yourself. But if you go to the gym and spend 20 minutes on cardio, and lift some weights and then have a salad, it's probably a better decision-making process. It doesn't take a lot of facts to do that.
Folks, it's Bill. It's LB Capital. We'll put some information to get in touch with them and see what's going on in their world. We'll put it all below in the description. You know the routine. If you have any questions, comments, make sure you drop them below. I'll make sure that I get to those. Bill, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. And, I know you're a busy man, so it's a Friday afternoon as we film this. So thank you very much. It's much appreciated, brother.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time too.